Hi everyone, my name is Inês and today I'm really excited to talk to you about my most recent watch, and that's the Artful Dodger. And let's get started with disclosing that a few days ago I read this New York Times review that characterized this show by saying that it's not going to knock your socks off, but it's entertaining enough. And I feel like that is exactly how I feel about the show. If I like or if I don't like a TV show, it's very much based on if I feel like there has been a connection or a click created to the show. And it's very automatic, and I still felt like that here, even if not to a huge degree. So how I came to watch the show in the first place? I came across a trailer on YouTube a few months ago, and I was immediately excited to watch it for a few reasons. I tend to quite enjoy period dramas, it's a medical show, and I'm a doctor, and most importantly, for me at least, the cast. The Artful Dodger is a Hulu TV show that follows the life of Jack Dawkins, aka Dodger, a young, brilliant British surgeon who now lives in Australia in the 1850s. Now apparently Dodger was a pickpocket back in London and was arrested, later faking his own death and fleeing to Australia. And the show starts with him reconnecting with the man who raised him and left him to rot in prison, and that's Fagin, who now is blackmailing Jack to help him in exchange to keep quiet about his past. Lastly, we have Belle, who is the daughter of the governor who wants to be a surgeon, basically. Characters introduced, let's get into what matters to me, and that's the cast. So, Jack is played by Thomas Brodie-Sangster, who is the small boy in Love Actually, and appears in big blockbusters like Maze Runner and also in The Queen's Gambit. Next, we have Maia. Now, I have been following her work ever since the first season of The Fosters, a free-form family show, and most recently, one of the best examples of how to do a spin-off show, and that's The Good Trouble. I cannot recommend enough both shows, but if you're around my age or older, then The Good Trouble is probably a better fit. What is interesting is that Maia recently chose to leave The Good Trouble because she wanted to come back to Australia, as she had been in the United States since starting filming The Fosters when she was 20. So this is her first show back in Australia, and I was excited to see what she chose to do next. So lastly, we have Thewlis playing Fagin, who is a highly credited actor and has a special place in my heart from playing Professor Remus Lupin in the Harry Potter films. Here he does a very good performance and gives the show some needed credibility and prestige, and may also help attract a slightly older audience. Also, I feel like I should disclose that I didn't know that this show is basically a fanfiction, since it's based on the characters from the Charles Dickens book, Oliver Twist. There have been in fact many previous adaptations in TV and movies of the character of Dodger. Not that I feel at all that you need to know Oliver Twist to enjoy this TV show, since I didn't, but just in case you're interested, Oliver Twist follows the life of Oliver, an orphan who eventually finds solace and a sense of belonging in the company of Fagin, a cunning criminal mastermind, and his gang of street urchins, including the Artful Dodger, who is now the main character of this Hulu adaptation. Basically, the show is a sequel and takes the question of what happened to Dodger after the story in the book, and while not a direct adaptation, the series draws upon the rich collection of characters and themes established in the Dickens masterpiece. So let's get into some details, and don't worry, I feel like I kept the spoilers to a minimum since I want you to enjoy the show in case you haven't already. So one of the things that I feel like the show did well was in fact the ambience or the settings, since they are quite gruesome. Many times in period adaptations, everything is very clean, but here they are not afraid to show the real conditions of the time. Because of this, the show can be quite graphic, not in a sexual or a violent way, but especially in the medical side of things. Jack is a surgeon, and more than anything, I would characterize this TV show as a medical show. Here, once again, it's not a clean, sterile, sophisticated, with the entire body hidden from view surgery that we are used to in TV shows like Grey's Anatomy, for example. Here is much more gruesome, and a lot of the times it's just like butcher work, since this is before many of the medical advances had happened. Even though I'm a doctor, surgery is definitely not my favorite field, and I've had to watch some really graphic surgeries in my studies, so personally, I feel like I don't also need that in my TV shows. And if I was not used to seeing surgeries in university, I think that some of the parts of the show would have been a bit too much. So I'm actually really interested in what you think of those moments. Apart from that, I feel like they did a really good, realistic job medicine-wise. more at the beginning, where we got to see how limited surgery and medicine was at the time and how many patients died. Afterwards, Belle starts to try and implement a lot of new advances that she had read about in books, and I enjoyed the references to names like Pasteur that I studied in school, but here they just try to put a lot of advances really quickly, and for the most part were very successful, which is incredibly unlikely, so I would have liked them to maybe introduce one thing this season, like the opium, and then something else next season. Also, they made Jack into this unbelievable surgeon, where all the procedures that he tries he managed to pull off on the first try, which again is also incredibly unrealistic. For the most part, I quite enjoy the character of Jack. I think I always have a hard time seeing Thomas Brodie-Sangster as an adult, but he partners quite well here with Maia Mitchell, so that worked out well. I don't know him from the novel, but I feel like the time gap here is big enough, and he's not a kid anymore, that can explain any changes to the character. They do a good job making you want him to do both the right thing and not jeopardize everything he accomplished, and at the same time, I personally wanted him to steal and break the law, and I think that is in great part because of the character of Fagin. Thewlis does a great job. I've read that he's not exactly as the original character, like age-wise, but here maybe you can help me out in the comments. But I like his relationship with Dodger. It's obviously complicated and dysfunctional, but I was kind of always rooting for them, even though you can see clearly through Fagin's manipulations, and so can Dodger, which I really liked, I still wanted him to get pulled into Fagin's schemes. As I said, Belle and Jack worked well as a couple, especially for a time period, since sometimes in period dramas the relationships feel very fake and superficial compared to our own time, and their romance didn't feel forced even though you kind of already knew from the beginning that they would end up together. At times, Belle was not exactly entitled, but just plain rude and mean, especially for example to her sister, and even though I think she played the part well, the character of Belle is very strong-minded and not afraid to speak up her mind, and ends up being too similar at times with Callie, who is the character that Maia played for more than a decade in The Fosters, and then on The Good Trouble. So sometimes I feel like I was watching a reincarnation of Callie. Did anyone else feel like that? Antagonist-wise, I think the show did a good job by having multiple adversaries, and especially Captain Gaines felt like a very well-constructed character. Personally, what I disliked the most, and spoiler here, sorry, is the fact that they included Oliver Twist in the story. Jack and Fagin are interesting enough characters that I didn't feel the need to include Oliver at all, and I would like to see more adaptations break free from their prequel or original materials and trust their own creations. Still, I quite enjoyed watching the show, and I would almost define it as a good feel TV. So thank you so much for sticking through the end. As always, this is only my opinion, and I would love to hear yours. Also, what have you been watching lately? I'm always searching for my next obsession, and I would love to hear your recommendations. Also, this is a new channel, so if you like this video, it would mean the world to me if you were to click on the subscribe button. I have a long list of videos that I want to make, and I cannot wait to share them with you.